But we're going to talk today about .NET MAUI and Blazor. I am David Ortinau. I'm a principal product manager on the .NET team. I started at Microsoft almost 10 years ago working with Xamarin. And before that, I had like 20 years of industry experience, a lot of web development. So I've written probably as much JavaScript as I have .NET. And it's fine. It's fine. I survived. It's all good. But I do love .NET, and I'm a huge advocate for what we bring to the ecosystem and to you as developers. So I'm excited to kind of share with you what you can do today if you're brand new to this, but then also show you where we're taking the platform in the future for all of .NET. All right, so let's get into these slides. Boop. So let's start off with a little level set scenario. So maybe this is you and you're thinking, well, if I just build a website, right? If I just build a website, that's going to get to everybody everywhere. But maybe I need it to be offline. Well, Spa can kind of do some offline stuff, but maybe I need GPS or secure storage, or I need the accelerometer or some other Bluetooth integration, and suddenly things start to really kind of snowball from there. And then you're thinking, well, the big deal CEO is telling me they want this thing in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store and the Windows Store. So how am I going to do all of those sorts of things? And the good news is you shouldn't have to choose, right? With Blazor, you get the full reach. You can go everywhere that you have a browser. And then Maui gives you the full depth of going to into the platform to get all of those native services that the native application developers get. And so it's native everywhere, right? Like when you're in the browser, you're getting a full native browser experience. When you're on Android and iOS and Windows and Mac and Linux, et cetera, then you are getting access to all the native things you need there as well. And I'm not probably going to get into this, but just to kind of plant the seed, you can actually mix and match native UI between the hybrid, the web stuff, and the native stuff as well. So hybrid gives you both. You don't have to choose. And of course, I had to call this out because as soon as I saw this picture, I was like, I had that hairstyle. That was me back in the day, and that was my personalized emoji. I felt like they made that emoji just for me from Skype. All right, so what is Blazor Hybrid? So this is your Razor components hosted in a Blazor web view. So it's a customized web view. Embedding web view and embedding hybrid in native applications been around forever. We didn't invent this. But what we did that I think makes this a step above other hybrid scenarios is that it's .NET code, right? Your Razor, your Blazor code compiles to .NET. And so it's all going to run in that same .NET managed process. So right there in your Razor template, you could be calling into the GPS or calling into the local storage, or even reading from the native tree to get UI elements and positions and coordinates and whatever else you might need to do. So it's a step above from that standpoint. Now you are not, in this case, there's no web server. There's not a web server running on the device either. These things are all being rendered from the .NET process into the web view. And so no web assets are being loaded at runtime. Now you certainly can do some lazy loading of assets and things like that, but that's not a requirement. So there's, big picture, there's no web server involved here. And then Maui, of course, gives you access to all the native UI. Now, in full transparency, Copilot and Claude both helped me with this slideshow. It does not have a lot of the stereotypical slideshow telltales of AI, except that I ended up with all of these really unexpected images, photography, which may have come from the brand template. But when I looked at this one, I just couldn't resist that he comes up with he's Googling on his phone, obviously. Are you a Blazor web view? Because you're already embedded in my heart. All right. with Blazor, you of course are building your UI once, and that's really a significant advantage. So we've learned this a long time back in the Xamarin space and now the .NET MAUI space, that when you're doing cross-platform development, you're going to build something that's going to appear on Apple devices, Android devices, in the browser, et cetera, et cetera. Most customers do want a strong level of consistency in the behavior and the UI brand experience across those platforms. And in some cases, they want pixel perfect. It needs to look exactly the same everywhere. Xamarin goes back 15 plus years, I think, at this point. And so, it was there from like iOS 2, which wasn't even called iOS 2 at the time. It's been there for forever, right? And so things back then looked quite different than they do today. iOS had a very different UI approach than Android did. Van did what you were doing in the browser. And so it made sense at that time to build your UI multiple times for each of those user experiences so that people felt like it belonged on their device, and they understood the metaphors, because we were also teaching people how to use touch devices back then. I feel like I'm giving a history lesson. Many of you probably lived through this. But there was a whole effort for several early years of touch devices where you were teaching people gestures. We were teaching our parents, no, you can pinch to zoom, mom, pinch to zoom. And all those sorts of things. But as time went on, we saw a lot more consistency and similarity in the user experiences amongst all the platforms. And so at that point, and this is kind of coinciding in like 99, 2000, when React Native and Flutter kind of gained strong ascendancy and captured a lot of the market, that it was that pixel perfect, same consistent UI across all the platforms. So you can certainly achieve that with MAUI using the native stack, but really the best way today to do that with the least amount of effort and the best results is using Blazor. So you get that wonderful CSS styled UI experience that can adapt really well to whether it's running in the mobile or running in the web, and yet you get all the other platforms as well. Now, AI again did this slide, and I was like, well, it's not really a continuum. And notice that we have macOS and Linux on this. Linux is actually in the mix now these days as well. So if you are a developer who's like, yes, but where's Linux? But where's Linux? You can have it. It's all there for you. But I feel like it looks a lot more like this, right? .NET is the hub, and this is the stack that really unifies all of this stuff. And that's why we love being .NET developers, is because we can really kind of gain strong control over the language that we're working with, the APIs that we're accustomed to working with, the full broad ecosystem of NuGet packages and open source libraries and open source projects, community, et cetera, et cetera. And then we can then we can attach to all of these different platforms. And so when our bosses come to us, when our customers come to us and say, we need to be where our users are, we can say, well, where are the users? Because .NET can get me there. And I'm not even representing on this slide embedded systems, which, typically they end up running some form of Linux or Android, which is also Linux. But that's in the mix as well. So you are in the right place. If this is resonating with you, then we see eye to eye. So from a technical standpoint, let's talk a little bit about how Blazor comes together, and then we're going to get into some demos and some feature things, and of course a little bit of AI. I saw that we had a session just before this. Adam was talking about Aspire things. I've got a little bit of Aspire here as well. And then later today, there's a session where Luis is going to bring us all the information about using Microsoft Extensions AI to do Foundry and other things. I haven't seen his presentation, but I'm imagining it's going to be amazing. So at the bottom of this stack, of course, across the bottom of the slides here, I can actually I guess I can point with that, but I could use like the laser pointer. Look at this. fancy. All right, so we've got our platforms. I'm listing the ones that are primarily supported in the MAUI product. However, you could over here say Linux, you could say even WPF, even WinForms. I did see that this is a thing that can be done. Do you want it to happen? I don't know, but maybe. Of course, today you already have the ability to do Blazor inside of a WinForms app using the Blazor web view, right? So it's also a wonderful modernization opportunity for a lot of customers who say, I've got this really old, long-lived, super important WinForms application. How do I modernize? Well, you can use Blazor as kind of the way to bring it forward. Of course, in order to run on all of them with .NET, we need to have our runtimes and libraries, the base class libraries. And we'll talk a bit more about what our runtime strategy is now in .NET 11 and moving forward, because it's evolving and changing. And then on top of that, we have WinUI 3. We just kind of go right into WinUI 3. You don't need a .NET binding. There's no invoking into anything else. All the C, C++, et cetera is, what is the word? There's a technical word for it. You can tell I'm a product manager because I have to reach for the technical words. Projection. There's a projection to .NET that you use for all of that sort of thing. But in order to get Android, iOS, Mac, Linux, for example, we need to actually create a binding to them so that we can invoke all the native methods from .NET and then create a nice API that is .NET friendly for us to use them. So that's what these SDKs are, and that's really where the bulk of the work we do is in the platform to enable .NET developers to do all these things across Apple and Google ecosystems. It's the same stuff that Uno works atop, same thing that Avalonia is working on. And then Avalonia also has their mono runtime. They've got work across CSharp and things like that. Uno is also using CSharp. If all the things I'm going to describe to you today don't quite meet your needs, you absolutely should be looking to Avalonia and to Uno and see if they don't match up a little bit better with your requirements. And then, of course, we have the MAUI device abstraction layer. And so this layer here is where we have a button, an entry field, an editor control, calendar control, or we don't really have calendars. We have date pickers and time pickers, sliders, switches, checkboxes, all the things, right? And so the one thing we didn't really ship in the box, we do have a web view in the box, but we did not ship a specific Blazorized version of the web view. And so that actually sits outside of the MAUI toolkit, but it is a simple add into any .NET MAUI application. You bring in the NuGet package in your host builder, you do a add Blazor web view, and then that web view is now available to you. And I'll show you some code here in just a second. And this is what gives you the ability to now share all your .NET Razor components. Of course, any of your class libraries that were already, UI agnostic, those could all have already been used anyway. But when it comes to the UI bits, we want that Razor class library. All right. Oh, now I can't click because I'm on the thingy, but I can do that. So one of the things we shipped, I think we shipped this in .NET 9, is we shipped a MAUI Blazor web template. So you can do this from the command line using .NET New MAUI Blazor web, or you can do this in Visual Studio from the File New menu, and then of course you get the project templates right there. But the way that this is structured is you get a web application, which is the head. I would call this a head project for your web app. And this is what's going to build the web specific bit that goes to the server and serves up your Razor templates. You're going to have a MAUI Blazor Hybrid. I called this MAUI Blazor Hybrid. That's why it's named that. But you're going to get a MAUI app. Now, the MAUI app has multiple platforms that it supports. It's a multi-targeted project, the first of its kind that we ever did from Microsoft and shipped. And so it required a lot of work in the project system to make that thing awesome. And it's super nice because it really addresses a lot of the major pain points that developers had around managing assets, because Android has requirements for assets that are different from the way iOS does it. As you can imagine, Google and Apple don't agree on much. And we're over here trying to be, I don't know, what is it, Switzerland? Hey, can we just all get along? And so Maui makes it all get along with a single project. And then we have our Razor class library down here, and this is where all the shared UI can live. And really, it's the thing that makes this all work out so nice and seamlessly. And so we can continue to have our wonderful web experience. It's our Blazor web app, but then we can also start sharing all of it or just parts of it into our .NET MAUI app, which may run on one or more native platforms. All right, so I'm going to exit from here by hitting the escape key, poof. And I actually have this here. Let me do this, presentation mode. Make that much bigger. And I'll close a few things here. Let's look at this project structure. So it's what I just described. I've got the web application. Inside the web application, it's what you would normally expect. It's going to have your program CS, that's going to do your host builder that you would normally have. This is a brand new project, so it's very basic. And then you have your shared project, which is going to have all of your pages. It has your www root, all the Razor that you know and love, and the red squiggles that you even know and love. I don't know why I'm getting red squiggles, probably because I'm in the middle of debugging a MAUI app, perhaps. But you're all probably very familiar with that. And that's where the majority of your work is going to go. Or if you're like me, it's where the majority of your GitHub Copilot agent is going to do the work. And then here in the MAUI project, this is where we have, firstly, I'll show you the platforms folder. Anything that is native Android stuff can go in here. If it's going to be shared and it's not Android specific, you don't need to put it in there. But this is where you have, and you would see these things actually if you ever did a Java or Kotlin based Android application, you would see very similar things. You'd have a main activity, which is the primary window that gets drawn for the application. And then you would have an application class, which kind of instantiates everything. And we, of course, create MAUI versions of it. Don't need to go deep into that stuff. But you also have resources if you end up doing, and this is kind of a nice thing. If you go looking, I don't know, does anybody do this anymore? Stack Overflow. I know Stack Overflow is still a thing. But if you're one that still goes and, you're a copy paster, which, no shame there, done lots of that. You go find some solution that is specific to Java or Kotlin from an Android standpoint, and you're like, oh, but I'm using .NET, I can't do that. Au contraire, this is native, so you can absolutely do that. So if you've got drawables or you've got XML styles that you need to bring over from a non.NET Android project, all that stuff totally works here because again, it is actually using the native Android toolchain under the hood. So this is, somewhat things that I wanted to point out as well, because these are things that as a .NET MAUI developer, you need to have some awareness of, at least to know that it's there so that you know the right questions to ask Copilot when you're trying to figure something out. And there are things that you just might not think about so much as a web developer these days. However, I mentioned that I had like 20 plus of industry experience before coming to Microsoft 10 years ago. I absolutely lived through a lot of different browsers. I remember one of the projects I had, I was like responsible for making cores work. I had done this thing on IE6 that needed to also work in modern browsers. And it was this whole JavaScript, Flash, bridge type crazy thing. It was months of my life spent working on that. So you had to be really, really familiar back in the day, maybe a little bit today, about vendor specific things in the browser space. You can kind of, think this is a kind of like that. They all kind of do a lot of things similar, but they also have their own idiosyncrasies that you need to be aware of. So iOS has an app delegate. They've got plists where you can kind of enable and disable permissions and things like that. Catalyst is almost identical to iOS, as you can imagine. If you're not familiar with what Mac Catalyst is, it is essentially taking UIKit, which are the UI elements of an iOS app, and up-leveling them to run as a desktop application on macOS. So you get very consistent UI experience, but it's kind of a little bit more nerfed or sandboxed on the desktop. If you want to go full native Mac desktop, then macOS AppKit is the way to go. And you can actually do that today as well with .NET MAUI. It's not one that we ship in the box. It's in MAUI Labs, which I will show you. And of course, we have WinUI, which I heard WinUI dropped the 3. We're not calling it by its number anymore. So that makes it a bit easier, right? All right, so that's the platforms folder. Now, the entry point, kind of the starting point for a MAUI project is going to be MAUI program, because this is where you're going to come in. You create your builder. You can configure some things like your fonts. App is the window. That's kind of the where the UI gets instantiated and your app really kind of starts off. From a Blazor web view standpoint, this is the thing I called out before. By adding the NuGet, now we need to actually instantiate the Blazor web view. And not only the web view, but of course, we're doing debugging, and we want to be able to inspect and use all the same dev tools that we are accustomed to using. And so we can enable the Blazor web view developer tools there as well. And then we get the, the Chrome developer tools, CDT, right? Yeah, something like that, that we can use to inspect and change things, etc. So MAUI program, very straightforward. If you're going to do any DI stuff, dependency injection, you're going to do any inversion control. If you're going to do any specific navigation things, you can wire all that stuff up here. So let's now look at that app that we mentioned. So application, not really much to see there. This is going to, as I said, create your window. Your window then is going to load up something as the root element. That root element here is going to be a main page. Main page is going to be of type whatever that native platform requires. And so if we go look at main page, initialize component, of course, because it's XAML. And you don't have to have any XAML in your application. Actually, I'll show you another application here in a few minutes that there's no XAML in it whatsoever. It's just all CSharp and Razor. But the magic here is that we are going to do Blazor web view. So I've actually already got this application up and running on Android. And so it is the Blazor app that you have come to know and love. It is the basic weather. Give me some weather. I think this is all like, it's not real weather, right? Can't be. I think it's all fake data, which would make sense. But it's all that sort of thing. Now, I actually did this. I want to see if this actually works. Nothing like doing some live stuff. Oh, it totally did. So what I did was I changed the safe area edges to none, and you see that it brought the Blazor Hybrid up underneath the status bar. So this is something that Android did in their, I think, their most recent major version of Android 36. But they kind of adopted the safe area edges API sort of that Apple has had for a long time. So Apple introduced the notch. As soon as they introduced the notch, and then eventually the, what is it, a dynamic island or something like that, you now as a developer needed a way to say, look, I need like some background stuff to go back there, but I don't want my UI to go behind that thing and be obscured. So Android did the same thing. Android's approach, however, was a little bit more scorched earth and unfriendly. They basically said, by default, every app is edge to edge. And so suddenly, by default, everybody's UI just got sucked to the edges of the screen. And as you can imagine, now obscured behind, you can't really see it very well, but there's a little camera hole at the top center of the device. There's status bar stuff there as well. So in order to accommodate that, we expanded our .NET MAUI native APIs to deal with safe areas. And so I say, yes, I want you to obey all the safe area edges. And so I'll save that. Actually, the save might have actually done it as well. Yeah, the save did it. So you see it refreshes the UI, and now we are behaving as we should by not obscuring those things. And there's more that you can do to control this, more options about how it behaves when you have an on-screen keyboard versus not having an on-screen keyboard and things like that. But this is an example of something that is a MAUIism. It's a native appism that your web browser app would need to write a bunch of, maybe not a bunch, but would need to write some CSS, some viewport awareness things, some JavaScript to deal with. And it's something that is just this easy in a .NET MAUI application. All right, let's go back to slides, and I want to then show you another application. So do I need to reshare? I need to reshare. Boop. Cool. So I want to introduce you to Sentence Studio. Sentence Studio is my little baby app. It is something that I have been building, and I have probably replatformed this thing across tech stack frameworks 3 or 4 times. Every good product manager needs to have an application that they just go deep on, and they kind of really get that enterprise developer experience where, yeah, I touch a lot of the same problems and complexities that my customers also experience, and so now I can better understand and relate to them. So this is a language learning app. My language of that I've targeted to learn is Korean. And this app actually supports, and it's open source, and you could totally grab it, use it. It supports any language that you want to target. But essentially, I have the ability now in this latest iteration to run it in the browser, on the desktop, and on mobile. I primarily use it on mobile, but now that I have a web version of it, I use it there. It started out as a XAML-based Xamarin application. And then when I moved to .NET MAUI, I turned it into a pure C# application in .NET MAUI. And then I feel like there was another step. Oh, yeah. And then I took it from pure C# in .NET MAUI to an MVU, model view update pattern in .NET MAUI using a wonderful framework called MAUI Reactor. MAUI Reactor has been around for years. We have had a guest blog about it on the .NET blog. If kind of the Flutter Swift UI style of writing applications is something that is super appealing to you, and you're looking for a wonderful library to help you with that, highly recommend MAUI Reactor. And just another quick plug, in my benchmarks, it actually renders and runs and starts faster than any other way of building a .NET MAUI application, other than just rewriting your UI n number of times. So big plug there. And then, of course, what we're looking at here is we're looking at a Blazor Hybrid application. And I was highly motivated to do this for a couple of reasons. One was that I wanted something that all the cool kids were doing. Beth Massey kept telling me how amazing the Blazor Hybrid stuff was. The MAUI engineering team kept telling me how amazing it was. The you developers in the community kept answering surveys and saying, we love this. You know, we've got roughly 25-ish%, sometimes around 30% of the entire MAUI community that use Blazor Hybrid, and you are the happiest, the nicest, the best looking of all the developers that answer our surveys. And so that stands out to me. You've always said you are the happiest using .NET MAUI amongst all the developers. And so I finally caved. I gave in. And I built this wonderful application, and I love it so much. It's hard for me to rationalize choosing anything else. Now, something that I also wanted to get into is Aspire. So something that this application does is it uses Foundry. And I'd been using Foundry since the early part. Actually, I used OpenAI APIs before Foundry was really a thing. Because I am basically letting AI teach me a lot of these things. It's doing translation for me. It's doing data ingestion with me. It's also sourcing samples for me. I give it a bunch of vocabulary and I say, give me some sentences for me to kind of do work on, whether that's translation work or closures or a bunch of other games that I can play. And so AI is a big part of this application, but I baked it all into the app, which meant that all of my secrets were in the app. And you probably just cringed when I said my secrets were in the app, didn't you? Because if I ever were to ship that to the Google Play Store, to the Apple Store, to anywhere, all of my secrets would be out in the wild, and then everybody could come and spend my money, and that would not be cool. And so by lifting everything into the cloud and getting Aspire orchestration and putting authentication with ASP.NET Identity into this mix, I was able to actually solve a lot of that. And you can see from the file, Solution Explorer, not really a Solution Explorer. You can see from the VS Code Explorer, there's a lot of stuff going on now in this application. So I went from basically having one project, which was my multi-targeted Sentence Studio native application, to something that now just kind of exploded into a bunch of projects. But it's fine. The Aspire really helps to kind of moderate and manage that complexity for me. And so I thought that this graph was kind of an interesting way to see just the sprawl of things that this application needs to now manage. And I also have a marketing website in there, which is completely AI generated, makes it look cool. I don't know how truthful it is because it's all AI generated, but there you go. It was fun to do. Again, it's my project. It's fun. And I was inspired to do this, and we'll take a look at both of these applications running here as soon as I'm done with this story. But I was inspired to do this because of PolyPilot. So let me tell you about PolyPilot. This is an application that the .NET MAUI core engineering team made themselves. And yeah, they didn't write a line of the code. This was all completely vibe coded. And essentially what it is, if you've used the GitHub Copilot app, then you've basically experienced this application because it does a lot of that and more, because there were really no concerns or restrictions. It was a small group of engineers on the MAUI team, so they weren't really concerned about shipping this to consumers. It uses GitHub Copilot SDK under the hood. And it spins up and attaches to any Copilot CLI session that your system is running. You can actually also steer and control sessions running on other machines on your network. You can control your sessions from any mobile device or web device by using either dev tunnels, or if you're on the same network, you can just have a direct connection to it. And so ran across desktop and mobile. Never was a web version for this. The web version you see here is the kind of the marketing-ish website. But if you search for PolyPilot .NET MAUI team, I'm sure you can find a bunch of information about it there. But the other super cool thing about this is that they built into it this little support button here. And maybe I should bring up PolyPilot and show that to you live. So PolyPilot, I think that one will run and not crash, right? Oh, can't open it. Oop, but we can just do this. We have the power, and we've got lots of time too. So this is cool. All right, so PolyPilot's right here. So I'm going to use a relaunch script, and the relaunch script is key, because what this is going to do is it's going to go and build the application, make sure that the application can run, and then open it for me. And the reason that that's super important is because as I'm using the application, it will actually let me iterate over the application using the application itself, and it will replace itself while I'm using it. So it's coming. Here it comes. And while that's happening, why don't I minimize this? Beach ball, it's working hard. it knows that I'm live streaming. So, all right. So probably don't need this anymore. Get that off the screen. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, I've got all my sessions over here. I can do all the things, but I can also come into settings and I can say, how do I want it to run? Is this an embedded session? Is it persistent? Do I want to create a dev tunnel so that I can connect to it? I can create a Fiesta worker. So Fiesta, we're going to have a party. It's like a LAN party. So I could have multiple machines all around my network, all running this sort of thing. But this down here is kind of what I wanted to call attention to, is that I could report a bug or fix a feature, and it will actually go off and fix that thing. And then I can have it reload the application for me while I'm using it. So I'm using the application to fix and iterate over and build new features into the application while I'm using it. It's like an inception moment. It's crazy. So absolutely love this. And they didn't write a line of it. It's a Blazor Hybrid app, looks gorgeous, runs great on my phone. And so I was like, yo, that's amazing. I need to do this too. And so I did. And that's where we get, boop, boop, move that off screen and reveal. So this is Sentence Studio. What is this? Oh, that's Sherpa. We'll get to Sherpa in a second. So this is Sentence Studio. One of the things that was super attractive to me is that, of course, it's got Bootstrap by default, right? So I can come in here and I can say, you know what? I'm going to go dark mode and I'm going to have all these different themes that I can choose from. It's just like, this would actually be kind of a pain in the butt with native, but it's basically like part and parcel. This is just the way you do things with, oh, I see that I actually have a comments. Oh, nice. Are you using small language models when running locally instead of LLMs? Rod asks. Actually, in this case, I am using sort of. I am using Apple Intelligence on Apple platforms for some features. And so that is kind of a not cloud-based thing, right? It's baked into Apple's operating system. However, the time to first token, time to final token, not great. Cloud is still faster. Maybe that's going to change now that Apple is like switching to Gemini and things. So we'll see. We actually have all of this stuff in Maui Labs. You can use all the onboard Apple Intelligence, Google Gemini as it's coming. Windows ships with Phi Silica, I think, on demand. And so we have a library that does Microsoft Extensions AI for all of that stuff. For doing on-device stuff, you would, of course, probably want to do something like Onyx, ONNX, and Codrina. I don't remember Codrina's last name. Apologies, Codrina. But she has a fantastic book that she just shipped right now that talks all about how to do that sort of thing, train your own models, etc. So that's I would highly recommend that. All things that Rod De Silva probably already knows, but now we have elucidated. Is that the right word? We now all share that knowledge. All right. So I built this app, again, Blazor Hybrid. I've got all these different activities that I can do with it. I can come in here. Do I actually have a URL in here? URL HTTP. Oh, did I not? Oh. No, I had a picture in here and I was going to show you the picture. All right, skip that. Let's go back. So I've got a learning resource. What is a learning resource? A learning resource is essentially any kind of video content that I want to bring in. This happens to be a little short clip from Justin Yu, who works on the, I think we call them the Cloud Advocate team. We used to call them the Cloud Advocate team. I don't know what they are today. But he did this build local video and I was like, hey, it's in Korean. I'm totally going to learn that. And so I can bring that in and now I can essentially say, okay, well, let's do a vocab quiz. And so it brings up the vocab. Yeah, you can't hear it through the thing, but I've got audio playing as well. And then I can say, okay, what is this word? Well, this is a Konglish word for code. And so it's just, he's talking about code. And I can do all of this stuff. And as I'm doing it, it is actually building up a history of all of the words and telling me, am I learning this word? Am I knowing this word, etc.? And all of this is actually backed by AI. And so with Aspire, let me see if I've got, did I get my Aspire up and running? Here it is. So I've got Aspire running. It's asking me to start a dev tunnel. With all this stuff, I've got my primary web app, which this is not actually the web app, right? This is a native application. So I could load up the web app as well from the local host. And this is actually logged into a different account. So this is logged into David. And this one is logged into Jane from Firefly, which, funny enough, Firefly, if you've ever watched, you know that Jane is a guy, but Copilot can't figure that out. Fun fact. So here I actually have a lot more content. I've got like 3,000. Let me see here, 3,000. Oh no, this one's lower, 400. Okay, so don't need to go deeper into the demo here, but suffice it to say, runs on all the platforms, looks great. I didn't have to do a ton of styling work because it's all bootstrapped. I can bring my own styling into it. All the things that you love from being able to do Blazor that just is awesome out of the box. Plus, now I have native stuff like, for example, being able to have native menus on my what do we call that thing? A system bar? Yeah, so native menus. Couldn't do that from the browser that I'm aware of. Maybe you can. But now I can do that here. I can also do things like, let's look at something else that is more, well, you can do file browsing too. I'm trying to say some things off the fly, and that's probably not a good idea. Okay, let's continue on. Let's get into some cool bits. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming in Net 11, and I will also feature for you some of the cool AI things that you could be using today that are, I think, token efficient, but highly recommend them for you. So first things first, .NET 11, it's CoreCLR everywhere, folks, for everything except for WASM. Sorry. WASM is in the works. It's just not expected to land by the time Net 11 ships GA. It's coming, but this means that Mono is no longer going to be a supported runtime from Net 11 on. Today, and as of today, the current release of Preview 11 of .NET 11 is Preview 5. You do have the ability to opt out of CoreCLR and go back to Mono. But why would you want to? Because with CoreCLR, you get better error messages, you get better debugging experience, mostly. iOS is still yet to come, and in terms of debugging. So some of the tooling things are evolving and growing as we proceed through the Net 11 previews, and we've got several previews yet to go. You get, in most cases, faster runtime. In most cases, you get smaller app sizes. And those cases where that is not yet true, we are absolutely working on those things. CoreCLR is the runtime that we have all loved and depended upon on the desktop, on the server for forever, right? So it makes sense that we want to consolidate on the best. And so Mono served a purpose for a very long time, very, very well. But now we're at the point where we can bring the runtimes together. And by having CoreCLR, you also are on the path to getting native AOT. If you've ever experienced native AOT, you know that this is absolutely the best of breed in terms of app size, performance, etc., which is never more meaningful than when you are running on a resource constrained device like a mobile phone. So if that is where you want to be and you want to get the absolute best, you want to be on CoreCLR and you want to work towards getting on native AOT. And she is so excited, she being the woman in this picture, that I had to put a thought in her head. It's happening. We're all very excited. We are also bringing .NET Watch everywhere. And so this today works really, really well for Android. The same .NET Watch that I think you being the broader Blazor community have had access to for quite a while. It's new to us in the MAUI space. And so being able to get .NET Watch everywhere is awesome. Not only that, but Hot Reload as a whole is being rewritten to use exactly the same pipeline across everything. So whether you're doing Razor, C#, CSS, XAML now, of course, uses source generation. So it's all on the C# train as well moving forward. So one pipeline, one set of things to maintain and manage. As you can imagine with me, that means it's one set of bugs to fix, not 5 sets of bugs. So look forward to improved experiences across all of that in .NET 11. If that's not enough, I don't know what is going to bring you to using .NET 11 previews. We're at preview 5. We've only got like 6, 7, and then RC1, RC2, I think. I mean, there might be some other like interim RCs, but we're getting close. So I think now is a really, really good time for you to adopt the previews and check them out. As a product manager, please, please, please use them, because we want to know how your app looks now, not later. So another tool that is essential in everybody's agentic workflow is DevFlow. So we ship this as MAUI DevFlow. It ships as part of the MAUI CLI, and the MAUI CLI is available from MAUI Labs. And what this tool does, you see us talking about CLI things a lot, perhaps. I certainly am using CLI more than ever. And the reason is because Copilot, Claude, all the agents, what do they like to work with? What's a first-class citizen for them? Command line interface, right? And so it totally makes sense that that is where we need to bring more power, more visibility, more features, so that our agents can be more effective at doing things. It's also more token efficient. So that's super important. So from CLI, DevFlow can build, it can run, it can see all your devices. It can actually do things like with the MAUI CLI, manage your Android SDKs, manage your iOS installs, all these things. You get visual tree inspection, you get on-demand screenshots. And it's not really even for you, although it is nice to be able to walk back up to a session after maybe an overnight, or maybe after like 30 minutes, and the CLI or your Copilot says, hey, I'm done. I did the thing you said. It looks great. And you're like, pics or it didn't happen. And it can actually show you a screenshot of what happened. And if you have a good skill that can do good screenshot comparisons and analysis without you being there, that's even better. So you get better results while you're away, because you've now given eyes to your agentic workflow. You get the Chrome developer tools to bridge the web views so that it can actually do all of those things. It can also do everything on the native applications. It can scroll, it can tap, it can zoom, it can inspect the tree, it can all the things. You also get your MCP experience. Aspire has a wonderful MCP experience. I imagine maybe in the last hour you heard about that. You can also do things like profiling and network capturing of frames and what's going on across the wire. You can read all the logs. And I say you, DevFlow, you've now given all that power to your Copilot agent or your Claude agent. And then we have drivers to do this across all the platforms. So it's super, super powerful. Oh, yeah. And by the way, down there at the bottom, I included all the TLAs, the three-letter acronyms, because I couldn't remember what GDK stood for. That's the UI toolkit that we have a binding for on Linux. Avalonia is also working on their implementation for MAUI that runs on Linux as well, but it's the GIMP toolkit. Unless somebody corrects me, that's what I think it is. All right. So a little bit more about how MAUI DevFlow does this. Essentially, you're going to have your tools, the thing you're using, and it works from Visual Studio, it works from VS Code. You're primarily going to be doing this from the chat UI. If you are like me and you're doing a lot of things from the CLI or from GitHub's new CoPilot app, or you're using Claude Code, or there's a bunch of others, right? Then you can do it from there as well. Essentially, we have skills. Those skills, sit in your global skills space or in your project skills space, and those tell the agent how to use DevFlow and for what scenarios. You want to make sure it's super high in your instructions or in your agents.md, because you don't want it to skip over these things. If you have things like Playwright or Appium in your workflows, you may want to tell it for hybrid, hey, I know you've got those things, but use them as a fallback. Prefer to use DevFlow because you're going to get a better experience. It's faster. It's purpose built for these scenarios. And then it's going to talk to the apps across the broker. Broker is a service running on your machine. It's keeping track of what agents are alive. And so we call them agents in the application, essentially a NuGet in your app that spins up a little server in the app that's listening, similar to how we used to do hot reload in the past. We used to do things like live preview in the past. And that's just on the app side. Now, Sherpa, this is for all of us visual learners in the crowd. It is a tool that is not just for DevFlow, it does a whole lot more, but we can actually see what's happening inside of our applications, and we can interact with it, and we can read our performance profiles and stuff too. So let me see, now is a good time. Yeah, now is a good time. Well, let's do this. One more slide, and then I will step out and show you some live demo-y type things. So Sherpa, I've mentioned several times. It is a desktop application, runs on Mac, Windows, and Linux. It is there essentially to be a utility for you across all those platforms to do all the things that you as a cross-platform developer need to do. It's like your toolbox, right? It is your Android SDKs. It is managing your Xcode installs. It is managing your emulators and your simulators and your devices. Oh, it's managing all the things. I will click through the menus and show you. It just does so much. And it is open source. And it's a Blazor Hybrid app. So if you want to see real world Blazor Hybrid pushing the extremes of what can be done from the .NET team, this is a fantastic one for you to look at. Look at the Sentence Studio one if you want to see what a knucklehead like me does, and some of the AI things. This has some AI in it too. But you wanna go see what our engineering teams are doing and building and using daily and shipping, and you should be using this. Please, you should be using this. It makes your life so much better. Then this is a great one for you to go check out. As a matter of fact, on a previous slide, a couple slides back. Oh, this one. Yeah, so here at the bottom, it's on Reth / Maui Sherpa. Who is Reth? Reth is Jonathan Dick. He is the lead engineer on the .NET MAUI SDKs team. If we call that a team used loosely, air quotes, team. He's on the .NET team. So you can download it from there. It has builds for all the major architectures that I just mentioned. And then all the CLI bits and the DevFlow bits are all in the .NET MAUI Labs repo. This is more of a labs, as you would expect, not fully supported, but actively supported, meaning that we are using these things and we find them useful and interesting. And if you use them too, then we will totally take care of all that. All of your concerns. So Sherpa, fantastic. Now is the time to go demo that, right? Yep, looking at the slides. Cool, let's do it. So we had it open here a second ago. Let me bring it over. Okay, so, and actually, since we still have that emulator open and we have that application open, we can bring all these things together in one glorious demo. Right, got that. And then, well, we'll save that. All right, so dashboard immediately tells me what the latest features are. It's got release notes. If there is an update, it would have already told me that. And it tells me my connected devices. So I've got a Pixel 5. Oh, you can't really see it. My cord's a little thin. Got a Pixel 5 sitting down here that I've been doing a bunch of iteration on and testing with. And so any of my agents can be working from that 24/7. Which for the past 3 days they were. And then I've got a simulator running here, an iOS 16 Pro simulator. Let me bring that on screen. Where did you go? There you are. And let me go ahead and open Barista Notes. Whoops. Oh, that app crashed. Ah. Here we go. So I've got this app, which is a Jetpack Compose turned into a Swift UI application written in Comet, which is a .NET project in the MAUI labs. So I'm using this as a testing ground to prove out Swift UI things so that we could potentially bring some of those things to .NET MAUI. Now, I can actually go directly to these things. Oh, it's actually seeing my watch too. That's funny. So let's go ahead and connect here, and I can see all of my logs. So this is something that, oh, I have an update available. Not right now. I feel like this is a Windows moment, isn't it? Where you get a Windows update in the middle of a presentation. John, we need a way to say I'm in the middle of a presentation. Don't prompt me for this. That's really funny. All right, so where did it go? It went behind. So this, the Logcat, this is a tool that, you would have had to have installed previously, Android Studio or even Visual Studio. We used to bundle this in Visual Studio. It might still be in Visual Studio on Windows, actually. Again, Blazor Hybrid, folks. This is Blazor Hybrid. Isn't it great? It's so cool. Got your shell. You can I actually used this to go find some screenshots that I had taken the other day on my Pixel 5, which is great because the actual Android file transfer app, the official one, is no longer supported on this version of macOS. So I was like, well, forget you. John Dick built one for me. Oh, I've got like 10 minutes left. All right. Can do all kinds of other stuff in here. Now, I've mentioned several times I can manage my emulators. It's going to load them. It's going to find them. And then I could also do things like creating new emulators. It's like, oh, I need a new one. It needs to be blah, 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 whatever. I can manage all of my SDKs. It'll go read my SDKs and tell me what I have that's available, what's installed that needs an update, with a nice UI too. Key stores can be a pain in the butt because you need to be able to sign stuff, especially when you're going to publish. And so being able to manage key stores, which I have no key stores because I'm not publishing Android apps, very, very nice to have here. Push testing, if you're doing any kind of push notifications, typically something that was a pain in the butt. Now baked into Sherpa, super easy to use. Again, all the things that you would need to do as a mobile cross-platform desktop hybrid queen of all the things. It's all in here. It's fantastic. Xcode management. There was a tool that many of us used for a long time called Xcodes. Still a great tool. Don't need it anymore because I can do all of my Xcodes right through here. You can see I already have like 4 different Xcodes installed. I can switch between them to make sure that I'm never blocked depending on what I'm using. Devices and simulators, all these things. Now, App Inspector. Let's look at this one real quick. So I think, let me see. Okay, I don't have an agent running in this one because that is a common app. So I didn't put the agent into that one, but I do have PolyPilot going and I have Sentence Studio going. So let me bring one of those back. So if I connect to PolyPilot, you can see PolyPilot over here. Not as useful right now because it sees the Blazor web view and that's about it. This becomes a lot more powerful when you get into the native UI stack side of things, which actually, oh, where's my phone? Maybe if I bring my phone up, will it do that? So I've got Sentence Studio on my phone. Y'all don't mind trying something on the fly, do you? Did you see my phone? Oh, actually, I might need to connect it. Let's do that. Oh, this also might be a release build, so who knows? Sentence Studio is probably going to be very similar. Yeah, it's the Blazor web view. But the cool part is if we go back real quick, you can see that with the native application here. No, don't do that. No, don't do that. Zoom. You can see here in the screenshot that I actually have a lot more rich information coming from the native UI stack, and I can actually manipulate it and edit it over here in the panel. So things that you would normally only have gotten from an IDE in the past, now super easy to do here in Sherpa. So Sherpa, absolutely something that you want to add to your bailiwick, your toolbox. No, I don't want to do that. Was there anything else? Oh, a couple other things to call attention to here in Sherpa before I leave this real quick. There is a doctor. So if you're like, hey, I can't get my environment set up. It's such a pain in the butt. These Maui people, it's so difficult. Hit the doctor button. Doctor button will walk you through fixing up all your things. It's got a friendly UI. Couldn't be easier. Really couldn't be easier. And then you can also, if you've got Copilot CLI running, you can connect that up here and you can actually utilize Copilot right from within Sherpa. Super cool. And because it's a native app, I can do things like this. I can go full screen. I can dock it, filters, all these fun things. All right. Wrap up time. Let me go final couple of slides. Man, time has flown by. I'm having a lot of fun. All right. Blazor for the reach, Maui for the depth. You get all of it. It's super amazing. Couldn't be easier to get started. AI picked some really crummy iconography for this, but add .NET MAUI workload. If you're running on Windows, that's just right through Visual Studio. If you are a CLI guru and that's where you like to live, then it's a .NET workload install MAUI gesture. If you have not yet seen Chet Husk's .NET Up CLI presentation from Build, which happened in the Ether world just a few weeks ago or a week ago, please do check that out. It makes managing your .NET version installs so much nicer and still works with workloads as well. And then as simple as a .NET new MAUI Blazor web, if you want to be in full control of it and do all those sorts of things. And then you can add DevFlow on top of that. My recommendation, just go into your Copilot CLI and tell it, I want to make a new Blazor hybrid web app to do all these things. I want it to run on Android and iOS. And I want to use DevFlow and make sure the DevFlow takes precedence over all the other things. And that's the way to go. We always talk about the 5 minutes to wow, or how do you get to that aha moment the quickest. It has never been easier than that combination of things right there. You want to continue doing it old school way. All these things still completely work. It's not old school. It's still today's school. I don't mean to say that you're in any way behind. But once you've drank the Kool-Aid, I guess, it's hard to go back. And some resources for you. A lot of the things that I just already mentioned. Sentence Studio is on my GitHub, which is David Ortinau. So you can find Sentence Studio up there, poke around at the code. If you've got feedback for me, would love to hear it. Definitely using AI as well to do a lot of reviewing of things, helping to find the right architectures and things like that. you just kind of work at a different level with it when you're not necessarily in the code every single moment. But it is, of course, super important to know what the code does. We've got the Maui Discord. We've also got Maui Verse. Oh, I should have put Maui Verse on there. So if you just search for Maui Verse, you will find a wonderful community of developers that are ready, willing, and able to help you with anything Maui related, Blazor related. In that, there's a Discord for that as well. So hope you all will come check that out.